Hey everyone, it's patch 3.23 Affliction, and today I want to talk about Squire and how to properly fit it into your Arakaali build, as quite a lot of people have been obtaining theirs either by lucky drops or by just being able to buy one, and a lot of people have been asking me what the best way to fit Squire into your build is. But today I want to make a really quick video to talk about how you should properly incorporate this into your build. So the first thing I want to mention is if you just want to equip Squire and you just want to go and play the game, you can do that, but I warn you, you're going to be substantially squishier and is going to be a little bit miserable in any sort of high-end content, as Squire just completely kills all of your defensive layers. Aegis Aurora is basically the way this build stays alive through the energy shield when we block, and without that, this build really becomes paper, so I really do not recommend to just equip your Squire and just to play the game. Instead, what I'm going to show you today is how to dual wield shields. Yes, you can dual wield shields specifically on Arakaali only, and it is incredibly busted, and this means we can gain effectively the triple damage increase that Squire gives us in this build, while also maintaining the incredible defensive layer of Aegis. So one interesting thing here to mention about how Arakaali works is that it's snapshots. So for example, if I were to put some supports into the Squire, and then I were to summon my Arakaali spiders, you can see at the top that they have their gems. Now, if I were to weapon swap over to this Arakaali, you see that the gem links are gone, but that is just a visual bug. They still keep these supports that were equipped when they were summoned. They snapshot. And because of that, what this means is I can weapon swap over to my Squire, summon my spiders, and then weapon swap again to now use my Aegis Aurora while still maintaining the 6-link damage that Squire with Arakaali provides me. Now, one thing to mention here is we do need 2 Arakaali's Fangs. If I were to do this again, if I were to take off the Arakaali's Fang with my Aegis, summon them using my Squire, and then weapon swap, well, because suddenly I don't have an Arakaali equipped anymore, which is one of the core requirements of the spiders to be alive, they just desummon themselves. So that's why we just need a second donor Arakaali's Fang just to be there as a way to trigger the condition for the spiders to still be alive. With this, we can get triple damage because Squire effectively triples your damage and still get the incredible tanky layer of Aegis Aurora. Now, to quickly talk about the gems and how you'd want to actually set up all this, it's fairly simple. In your Squire, you want to specifically put damage on full life, withering touch, and awaken minion damage. The qualities on these are the best 3 scaling qualities, and because of the removal of all quality gems in Affliction, there isn't really anything better to put in there other than some default gems with some okay-ish qualities. As for your weapon, what you want to be putting into it is a melee physical damage, or an awakened version if you can get it, a melee splash. You can choose to swap this out for void manipulation and then it would quadruple your damage, but personally I feel like you do so much damage as is, and I've been doing super high-end content with my Squire all day, and I literally cannot tell you the difference between a melee splash and a void manipulation, so I'd rather have a melee splash in there to have consistent AoE as well as a multi-strike as their last gem. Now, I want to give some tips for people just to make this as easy as possible so you don't really get annoyed with this. In my opinion, I feel like this is super easy to do, and it really isn't an extra hassle at all. So personally, what I've done is on my bar, I've made it very clear which one is my Squire bar and which one is my Aegis Aurora bar. On my Squire bar, I've decided to put a bunch of bone armors just because these icons are super bright, and it's a very easy way if I'm looking in the middle of my screen to know I'm either playing my Squire bar or my Aegis bar by just simply kind of noticing how yellow my bar is. So it's very easy for me to visually know if I need to still weapon swap or not. In terms of the whole summoning procedure, if I'm starting with my Aegis bar, it's very simple. I just need to press X before I do my summoning and then just press X again. And realistically, it really doesn't change much since your hand is kind of close to X anyways, and because you can use your X without really any sort of cooldown, it doesn't add any extra time to your summoning, and it really doesn't feel like that much of a hassle, especially when you just see how fast bosses and anything around you will melt with your Squire. Another thing to mention is because the Arakaali minions last about 40 seconds, this really doesn't feel that bad, and I can basically clear a whole map with just the first set of Squire minions and just quickly have to resummon at the end of the map to kill the boss. If that feels a little bit too bad for you, what you can do is, as a necromancer, you can pick up missions to sacrifice. This will raise your raised spiders from about a 45-second duration all the way up to a 62-second duration. And if that's not enough for you again, you can just choose to drop one of these 6 gems and add in an increased duration in your 6-link. It's not going to give you any sort of damage, but it will raise your total uptime when you include missions to sacrifice to about 72 seconds or so, giving you about a minute and a quarter of time before you have to swap anything. And that should be more than enough time to do a full map, assuming assuming you're not doing something like Delirium or something that takes a long time. But in most cases, in most content, it should feel completely fine. Lastly, what I want to mention is another potential swap you can make. We've been using Gravebind this whole time to allow us to resummon our minions in combat a lot easier. But because we don't want to do that, because we don't want our minions to be resummoned while we have our Aegis out with the Arakaali's Fang that doesn't have anything on it, we can instead choose to replace our gloves, and the best option would be a Breathstealer. These are a pair of gloves that come from Blight, and they're actually really good on minions specifically. What they do is they can be anointed by Cassia, so just like how you have an anoint on your amulets, you can put an anoint on these, giving you the option to either run Charisma, which might let you run a few extra auras, or you can instead pick up a health node such as Heart of the Warrior, or just anything you want. This is actually really flexible, and it opens up quite a lot of interesting opportunities for the build. Another example could be as Necromancer. If you have an Impressence, you can put Whispers of Doom on this, and suddenly you have 2 curse limits, so you don't only have to have a Despair, you can have a Temp Chains as well, for example. And the other cute thing, which really isn't useful except in some niche cases where it's actually really impactful, the Create a Blight Spore when your skills or minions kill a rare monster is effectively like a mini headhunter. What that does is it's going to take one of the effects from the rare monster, one of their affixes, and make a spore pod with it that has a little bit of life. It's kind of like a small minion, and it's going to radiate an aura with whatever it stole. So it's basically like a mini headhunter buff that's stationary. So it's really good in cases like Delve or Ultimatum or Harvest or Expedition, where you're kind of standing in the same general spot and you're killing a lot of monsters, and there's a lot of rare monster spawning. If you really like Ultimatum, it's actually really, really strong Ultimatum. But while mapping, it's not going to be that useful because you're just going to run away from the spots and you can't convocate them or do anything. They're just stationary. But it's kind of nice in some niche situation, and the annoyance really just makes these the best pair of gloves, as there's nothing else that's really good for us in this slot. Lastly, another thing to mention is you can put whatever you want in your Arakaali's Fang that is part of your Aegis setup, as this is not used in any way at all. Personally, I was using this to level some Enlightens earlier, but if you are strapped for gem space and you need more gem space, you can put your things in here, or you can just use this as a way to level a few extra gems if you want to make a little bit of extra money. But this does free up 3 extra slots, and as I've been min-maxing this build and working on the mid-game guide, I've been really strapped for finding enough gem sockets to fit everything in, and having these 3 extra gems from us swapping over to a Squire and doing the weapon swapping tech is absolutely incredible. And it makes this build even better because we can fit a lot of things in and I don't have to sacrifice anything later on. That's all I really have to say for this video. If you have any questions, please let me know and I'll be more than happy to help you. I also stream on Twitch every single day, so if you don't want to leave a comment below with your question, please feel free to come by Twitch and I'll be more than happy to answer it there for you. Or if you just want to come hang out with all the cuties, I'll be more than happy to see you there. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you cuties in the next video.